Well, welcome to Both Sides Now Table Talk. I'm Michelle Pexa, and I'm here with Serena Presland-White in Alberta, Wembo. And we're here in June in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, entering into the full summer, kind of winding up from season one. This is our season one finale. And we just wanted to engage with you as an audience and just talk a little bit about where we've been and where we're going. As a show, Both Sides Now Table Talk, and so Serena and Alberta, over the past 6 months, we've released 10 episodes in terms of topics, right? 10 we produced and released. This is amazing for our first show, just within 6 months. But some of the topics had more than one part to them. So actually, including this season finale. It's been about 15 episodes that we've actually released in the last 6 months, which is well done, ladies. Well done. For those that are in media, they would appreciate the work that goes into it because there's a fair bit of work in terms of research. We've invited guests to be part of our shows, making sure we understand the topics, the issues, producing, marketing. So there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and so well done, ladies.
Well done, Michelle. Yeah.
It's been really great. So yeah, let's get into some of the discussion on kind of where we've been so far.
Yeah, I'd like to actually ask a question. Because of the episodes that we've done, and what are the episodes that you most enjoyed and why?
I enjoyed the one on racism where my brother was invited to the show just because my brother was there. So I enjoyed having a family member there, then just having my perspective. So yeah, I enjoyed that one so much.
I really enjoyed that one as well. Probably out of that topic, that episode I enjoyed a lot simply because it felt really free. Like it felt like we could just say what we thought. And I think that the topic was really well covered. I think the funnest one for me was our Mother's Day one. It wasn't really dealing with issues, but we had a lot of fun. It was a little bit of a different kind of topic for us.
I was thinking about it last night. I was thinking, which ones did I actually really enjoy? And I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I mean, Alberta, I have to say, Alberta, you have taught me so much. Like, I just really enjoyed hearing your stories from Congo, hearing your stories that you and Danny were talking about, your experiences coming to Canada. But when I thought about when we first started this, I really enjoyed us together as women.
That's true.
I loved our conversations. I
Yeah.
loved how we came back and we reverberated off of one another, and how we worked together as a team. Like I look back and I go, I have fond memories.
Yeah.
And fond memories of the guests that we have had on, even in the intensity. It's been a joy.
Yeah.
So but I do really love the episodes where we started off and we had good discussions as women. So that was kind of my favorite.
Well, and there's something about that too. We're going to probably get into a little bit more about some of the challenges as well. But when I look back on that too, those first 4 that we did together, I agree with you. It was really great because we got to, we didn't have any animosity with each other. There was no, we could just talk openly again and dig into conversations and be tough on issues together. And I agree with you too. So probably between those ones, I'm in agreement with you as well.
I think for me, it still goes to just because, for the 3 of us, we know each other. So because the show is about dealing with issues within the society, and just hearing the familiarity, sometimes it can get boring. So having somebody else come over, like I'm used to my brother because we usually go and have talks, and we're usually both of us go and speak in different places together. It makes it very I don't know how to put it in good words, because we've never, we did it once in Radio Canada, and this was the second time we spoke together on racism, and it was really nice to hear his perspective because he's not majoring in international studies or any humanities. He's doing the sciences, so for him to speak on those on that aspect that way. For me, I was very impressed. So I guess.
Even when Danny was talking, you know, he was so great in that he'd say, well, I just want to play the devil's advocate a bit. You know, so you're saying this, but what about this? And so he would push a little bit. And that was great because we were able to, again, then release information that the audience might be thinking about. Because it's not always, the questions aren't always asked because, you know, we just want to know. There's audience out there that wants to know this information. And so, he was really great. And that's probably getting to some of the guests that we like as well.
Which episodes do you like were the most challenging and why?
Because we're so new to this, when we did the back-to-back episodes, like we did, you know, just full day recording, like I think I loved what we were doing, but I think because of the newness of what we were doing, the intensity was what really got me. And that was what I actually found challenging, because we were transitioning from, you know, interviewing two guests on racism, and then we went directly into sex ed and curriculum, right? And I found that incredibly intense, a very intense day. And the challenging aspect was, you know, getting our material, and as a facilitator, I imagine even more so, but making sure your head was on, you know, and you were on, and making sure that we knew our material and being very well versed in it, because and also I learned tremendous amount, you know, and I think it really broadened my perspective. And so as challenging as it was, I think it was actually very good as well.
Challenging, obviously, the most delicate topics that we did talk about, that are probably the most controversial right now, dealt with racism, dealt with, you know, sex ed curriculum, but especially around racism. Those particular episodes, you know, again, it was right at the very beginning, as you mentioned. And even though I'm a mediator by profession, my environment's a lot more controlled when I'm mediating. You know, there's a lot more things in place to actually facilitate a discussion. That one kind of took me back a bit because I wasn't expecting maybe some of the information. You know, I didn't know how the viewpoints, even though we did our research, I probably didn't really understand the intensity of a view. And I found myself actually feeling a little triggered. And that was really something, isn't it? Something, because we're trying to be neutral and we're trying to facilitate, but I had to really manage my composure because I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling like I'm on the spot. I'm feeling like I'm a little bit, I almost felt a little bit attacked, you know, to be honest. But that's okay, because I realized that's how hard these topics are, right? And so you feel the humanness, you feel what it feels like if someone's angry with what you're representing, or it may be a viewpoint that you have. I mean, it's one thing at the beginning for us to all talk about why we should talk about this, you know, what the challenges are. But when you're actually in the middle of it, and you realize, oh my gosh, this is a very strong view. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't understand it. It feels harsh, right?
Personally, I wish we started with easier topics and then moved to the extreme. I felt somehow, I didn't like that we started with extreme topics, and especially that it was just around the corner that the George Floyd incident happened. Being Black, I knew exactly what was going on in the Black community, and that almost everyone was angry. I don't know one person that wasn't angry, whether they are Christian, not Christian. Everyone was angry, so I felt like this is the wrong time to talk about racism. But yeah, it was intense for me, but in my culture, they said, you know someone when they're angry. You know what in someone's heart when they're angry. So that topic, during that period, just few days, or I think maybe a few months after the George Floyd incident, it kind of scared me a little bit, because it was kind of a deja vu. In class, we have very hostile discussions as well, because I'm majoring in international studies, so in classes we talk about all these issues, and there's hostilities everywhere because people feel like you're attacking their personality when you talk about just different things.
I think if we were probably to do this again, would we probably deal with the aspect of racism at that time? We probably would have said, maybe let's just put that one off a little bit, right? So because we're so new to this, the learning and the timing of everything, and maybe, this is something that we're going to take into the future going, we need to look at the whole of what's going on in the society because, and we've learned a lot in the last 6 months.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, the context I was going to say too, for sure, for Alberta, you were a little vulnerable because, you're representing your community, and it was a delicate topic for sure. And yet, I would have to say, although I do think it'd be a little easier had we eased in society right now, I don't think there's any easy topic. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, there's hostility on so many issues right now. And so many voices are not being heard at all because everybody's afraid. Sometimes I think it just says at large, how do we have the courage in the midst of all the complexities to be tough on issues and soft on people? How do we have the courage to open up conversation when it's so delicate? Because right now everything is. There's just so many difficult topics right now.
No, and I think that's why we started the platform, was because that was one of the things we said. It takes courage to show up to have a tough conversation. I think we've done a tremendous job.
I think so too. Yeah. I think that to realize the variables that are involved. I mean, how much technological problems did we have recording? Because we're in the midst of COVID. This is wonderful. We've got a cameraman here with us today, and we've got this in place right now. But trying to record online, and technology's not working, and backgrounds aren't working, and sound is not working. In all of that, then trying to facilitate discussion when there's tension. And, as we talked about it, the reality is people will become triggered when things are important to them. So we're dealing with all of those variables. So I think, bravo.
Yeah.
Ladies, we've done very well together. And, I've appreciated working so much together with you. I think there's a lot of good things to come, and we have learned a lot as well, too. But that's one question, too. Our vision for this show was that we would provide a platform, right? That at the beginning, we talked about this. We talked about discussions aren't happening. People are in echo chambers. They're listening to viewpoints that are in keeping with them. The algorithms on their computers will give them downloads of what they're already listening to. People are getting angry. There doesn't appear to be platforms out there, and we felt like this was a need. Do you think we've done that, ladies? In these last 6 months, do you think we provide a platform where we authentically allow both sides to be heard?
For the newbies that we are, I think we've done a tremendous job. I think Michelle, for you to offer both sides and facilitating that, I think you've done an incredible job. I think sometimes, and this is from my perspective, there were times I think we gave probably the louder voice too much of the megaphone. But it's hard to juggle that, isn't it? It's hard to navigate when someone has a louder voice who may not, like, for example, in one episode that we did, one might have a quieter voice and one might have a louder voice. Right. It's hard to balance that. It's hard to navigate that. Yeah. So I think for what we accomplished in the 6 months and the way we balanced it, especially for you, I have to say, Michelle, because you are the facilitator, you're the one who's balancing the platform. I think you did a tremendous job. So kudos to you, and so do I think that we, for what we were handed, did a good job? Absolutely.
When we bring on guests, we only have so much time. There's a window, and they're coming from their viewpoints, and we wanted to bring in guests. And many from our audience even told us, when we did our first 4 episodes with just the 3 of us talking, we received a lot of feedback from our audience. They're saying, we really want you guys to get into the issues. Yeah. We really want you to bring in guests and talk about the issues. And so that was feedback that we received. The reality is, when you have 5 people and you've got 2 guests that are going back and forth and I'm interjecting, I personally found that I really wanted more of your voices in there. And so that was really, really hard, because you've got guests that are coming from a distance. You're not going to cut them off, and in that way. But on the other hand, it's just a matter of facilitating. And I think that's something that we're going to have to work out a little bit more, because that is the hard thing, is to be able to have all the voices heard. Sometimes what people don't realize, like depending on what platform you're using, when a person is actually speaking, you can't even cut them off when they're talking because you can't hear. And so even the interjecting was difficult if somebody really took the floor. We had to pull it back. So time, I think, was a challenge. Our audience may not know this, but we're not scripted. We have kind of questions we're going through, but this is actually very organic, our conversations. So we don't have a script where Alberta says something just at this point, and Serena says something at this point, and Michelle says something. We don't do that. We just kind of say what we're thinking. And shows that are really scripted, they can probably get more in, but they're a little bit more wooden and mechanical. So we have that little bit of attention, to be able to figure out how we can best do that.
I've never done this before. So I'm learning how and where my voice and how to interject. Where can I put in something?
Right.
If we had been doing this for 5 years or even 3 years, but we've been doing this for 6 months.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of growth, I think, individually, but not only that, but as a team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, again, I'll tell a little funny story to our audience. So one of the episodes that we were recording, our audience may not know this. So we have a little bit of ability to chat on the bottom. And Alberta wanted to say something. So I'm in the middle. I'm trying to facilitate these guests. This was probably one of our more tense discussions. And Alberta wanted to say something, and I did not catch her kind of motion. And I think she even sent something in the chat, can I say something? But I didn't even notice it, because I'm like totally engrossed in facilitating what's going on. And after she's going, I wanted to actually say something. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? And so that's part of it. And if you noticed, on the capitalism versus socialism, we had two brothers, and we were talking about this. And so we've got Mark and Steve, and Mark is a lot quieter in personality. So he had a lot to say, but he would hold back more. And you would notice that Mark would have interjected naturally a little bit more. He was a little bit more forceful. And so that just kind of happens in that dynamic. I'm hoping, and we're going to talk about this right now, I'm hoping as we're moving into season 2, we have to talk about our platform. Perhaps there's a better platform we could be using if we are doing our internet. Sitting here like this is a little bit easier because we can talk back and forth. But, I think that's, and learning and growing, how do we communicate? So our audience doesn't know this. We talked about it as a team. Okay, next time you want to say something, we've got to find a cue to catch Michelle's attention. So that, every information gets out there. And it's just something that we've had to learn, because we still don't want to be totally scripted. We want to be a little bit more organic. Yeah. And I think that's just part of it. Any talk shows, you notice the ones that seem to get in the words are the more assertive ones. Yeah. You don't even see, even on table talks, the ones that are quieter, sometimes they don't say as much. And so we're having to learn how to do that and how to interject more.
Yeah, and I think that comes, now we're kind of going into the aspect of how we've grown, but coming into season 2, I think, one of the things that I've learned, and I'm even learning about us as individuals, is we're becoming more comfortable with one another. Yeah. So I'm starting to read your body language. I can read Alberta's because we're working, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, so that I know that Alberta has something to say, and then Alberta is learning to say, okay, I can actually speak here now. Yeah. So we're learning one another. Yeah. And I think coming into season 2, there is going to be some more of our voices coming forward. Yeah. Because we're growing in confidence, we're growing in comfortability, and teachability. Right. And knowing that, we're literally blossoming.
Ladies, when we're talking about the show too, let's just talk about our guests for a minute. What guests did you find the most interesting?
I have to say I loved, and I have to thank Alberta for this, because Alberta, Will Ford. I loved Will Ford, and I'm so grateful that you reached out to him, Alberta. Yeah. I loved his stories. I loved reading his book, The Dream King, right? Right. If anyone in our audience can read that book, it is a phenomenal book. It tells a great historical story of where he came to, how he came to the resolve that he did. And I have to say, I really love that. And the second one was, I love Dr. Gillies.
Okay.
She is a wealth of information.
Yeah.
And I think she gave so much, as a parent, she gave so much hope in terms of how to deal with what we're dealing with in today's society.
Okay.
Because I did read her book, Closing the Floodgates, and there's some awesome, awesome resources in there. So that, to me, I really enjoyed that. I know it was challenging. I know it was intense, but there was a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little biased. I love my brother. Yeah, I found him very interesting. Just because, I mean, at home we always discuss about everything, really, everything, food. We even debate about everything. But like I said, the second time having him there, and I think he did more talking than me. I think so, right? For the racism thing. I think.
About the same. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I think I really enjoyed hearing him talk.
I really enjoyed that informal interview that I did with Cassia and Derek.
Yeah,
You know, Cassia just brought out like her perspective of what it was like for her to go back home with Derek, where he grew up in the slums in the United States, and to hear, you know, from their hearts, you know, it was just eye-opening as well, because they're walking this out, they're living it every day. I found that to be a really fun conversation, but I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from Dr. Zita. I did not know that was, you know, definitions out there on racism. You know, not that everybody agrees with that, but I didn't understand any of that. And I found her to be so, she just brought a wealth of education, resources, knowledge. You know, if we all talked about it, felt like we were sitting in school again. But I learned a lot from Dr. Zita, so I was really grateful for that as well. You know, we're going to swing over here for a minute, because we're going to end this episode here. But if we're talking about, because we're ending season 1 again, 6 months we've done of season 1, and we're going to be beginning season 2 in the fall. What are you ladies hoping for? What are you hoping for in season 2? What can our audience maybe expect from us?
I'll say that most of my friends really want to see more diversity, because, for instance, the seasons that we've had, you know, just on the platform with us, we're very diverse, and they want to see that reflected on the guests. And also the age range is very important as well. Because we want to have more viewers, and we want to see more subscribers. So I think that representation matters. So I want to see also teenagers involved, and so maybe topics that are interesting to teenagers.
And so even for our audience listening to that, you know, we're going to need to hear from you as far as what you want to hear about. It's good to get the feedback. What would make this interesting? Yeah. What about yourself, Serena? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I think I would like to see a broader range of age groups. I'd like to see, my heart is, you know, for the 20-year-olds, and I'd like to actually hear their thoughts. I'd like to have, you know, for our audience, any questions, any comments, any feedback. We are so open to that. And for our audience, subscribers. I think we need a lot of subscribers. So, you know, hit that like button and subscribe.
One thing I wanted to mention too, you know, when you talked about this, is the younger generation. You know, I've done different groups. I mentioned mastermind groups, and I'd like to see an arm off of this show, or part of the show. We'll have to figure this out, where we actually bring, you know, people together and actually brainstorm ideas around solutions to some of these issues. So if we can talk about it from both sides, you get to hear what's important, what are the interests from both sides, and then to look at what kind of solution could be in place that would possibly represent those interests to the best possible extent. And our young people are brilliant, and so definitely we'd like to see more young people come on the show. Again, if you're watching this right now, you know, send us a note, make a comment, send us a message. You can contact us on our website. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. And you know, in terms of what we'd like to say to our audience out there as well is, as Serena mentioned, if you could really help us out, because the more subscribers we have and the more comments made on the YouTube, it helps to get us out there. It actually sets it up so that we become more visible to others out there. And the whole point of this show is to be able to have these conversations and represent a wide audience.
I just wanted to add that we now have a Spotify account. So for those who don't want to watch videos and just want to listen to the audio, you can go also on Spotify.
I just want to say thank you to the audience. Thank you so much for your comments, for subscribing, and for just supporting Both Sides Now Table Talk. And get your friends. You know, there is such a hunger to know what we're talking about, the episodes, and just enjoy and have a lovely, lovely summer.
You know, just kind of what you can expect, as Alberta mentioned, we're on Spotify, but did you guys know we're actually on Google Podcasts as well, and we're on Podbean. And just so audience out there, just think about, you know, you're driving this summer, maybe you're taking a road trip, a holiday, you're happy to break out of constraints. You can listen to us, these conversations anywhere. Put your earbuds in, do whatever, but watch for us on these for audio podcasts only. Also, if you have not seen all of our episodes, we're going to make sure that a lot of them are rerun over the summer months. We encourage you to watch them because there is gold in some of the conversations. And, you know, I understand, you know, you guys, I understand that everybody gets busy and sometimes our attention span is really short. We've intentionally kept our episodes to about 30 minutes. It's not a long time. And also, sometimes if you just watch the beginning and skip through, you might miss some really important information. And as we mentioned, we've had guests here, university professors. You know, Dr. Ann Gillies is a professional counselor. You know, their time that they gave us is worth a lot. Our time is worth a lot, and your time is worth a lot. But we really are confident that if you take some time and listen to it, it's a worthwhile investment. Also, it might help you, you know, think through some of the conflicts in society right now. Give us feedback about topics that you would like to see. And perhaps you might even want to be one of our guests on our shows around coming up with solutions. So awesome. We'd like to be able to hear from you. We really would. And we can't do this without you. Without our audience, we don't have a show. Yeah. We don't have a show. And and again, we thank you so much. We say thank you to our audience. Thank you every single guest that has been on our show. I can go backwards. I'm looking at Steve and Mark Hawes and Angie and Amanda Birch. And Cassia Kazil and Derek Moncrief. Also, Danny Mwembo has been a guest. Fred Pexa, my husband, has been a guest. I should have said he was one of my favorite as well.
He was our favorite.
He's a favorite. We also had Dr. Zita. We thank you so much for your time. Dr. Horowitz, we thank you for your time. Dr. Ann Gillies, we thank you for your time. Will Ford, the third, we thank you for your time. So also we'd like to say to our audience too, what's coming up is we're going to be looking at giving a little bit more juicy content behind a wall. So we'll be giving the opportunity for you to become subscribers, not just to our YouTube channel, but become subscribers to this show. And for those that are subscribing, there'll be a few extra things you're going to be getting, including behind the scenes information that you won't get on our typical episodes. So you want to make connection with us. Again, send us your comments, send us your contact information if you'd like to receive even emails as well. But we want to communicate with you. And again, we thank you for making us a part of who we are. Thanks so much.